Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming to watch us have a chat for 45 minutes. So we're going to talk about the low and no category, titled The Secret Moneymaker. So hopefully you'll uncover those secrets as we go on today. My name is Blake Gladman. I am a Strategy Insight Director at CAM. We are a research and insight agency specialising in the hospitality sector. And I will let our panel introduce themselves, and then we will get cracking. So, Emma, do you want to kick off?
Hi, everyone. Great to see everyone. My name's Emma. I'm the Managing Director at Lucky Saint, which is a beer we're drinking today. And we're on stand 238. Is that right, Lucy?
Over there.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm Laura. I'm from Club Soda. Club Soda is a mindful drinking movement. We've run mindful drinking festivals since 2017. We now have the UK's only specialist retail space in Covent Garden, the Club Soda tasting rooms and bar. It does exactly what it says on the tin, so do come and visit us. You can try all sorts of alcohol-free drinks from an amazing set of producers, some of which I suspect we'll talk about today.
Hi, I'm Jack Hibbard. I'm the Commercial Director for No and Low at Proof Drinks. Proof Drinks is one of the leading independent drinks distributors in the UK. We distribute 6 different No and Low brands, the key one for this discussion being Liars. Mark Livings was supposed to be here today, but he's stuck in Holland, so I've stepped in, so hopefully I'm not too much of a downgrade.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Well, so at CAM, we've done, over the last probably 2-3 years, we've done quite a bit of research into the sector, or into the category. One of the things from last year was around, so 55% of consumers told us they were looking to reduce their alcohol intake last year. So the first question to the panel really, do we believe that there is a genuine cultural change that is happening towards drinking in this country? Alcohol, I should say. Emma, do you want to start?
Yeah. It's been so interesting to see the change over the last 3 years. I would say 3 years ago, we were knocking at people's door. About a year ago, the door was slowly being opened. And this year, people are asking us to come through the door. So I would say 2023 is the year moderation goes mainstream, and it's definitely the year that the hospitality industry start taking moderation more seriously. 1 in 3 pub visits is now alcohol-free. So if you don't have an alcohol-free range in your shop or in your pub or in your restaurant, you're going to be excluding a huge array of the population. And I think lots have been said about Gen Z. A third of Gen Z don't drink, but actually we're seeing moderation across every single group, every single age group. So it's not just about young people. And I'd like you to consider, do you know anyone who's trying to drink more this year? I know I'm not. So 2023 is the year moderation goes mainstream.
Yeah, I'd call it a perfect storm of circumstances. So you're right that it's cross-generational. When I first started Club Soda in 2015, first of all, there were no alcohol-free drinks. And secondly, people, if they were changing their drinking, they'd go, oh, it's because I want to lose weight. Now, people are really happily saying, cross age groups, that it's about mental health, that moderation is a key behaviour in this space. And a couple of things have happened. Firstly, social media has allowed people to talk about this and talk about it more openly and see that it's not something that there's a hard line on. You're not either a dangerously high drinker or you're okay, that there are grades of different types of drinking and different people can cope with more or less alcohol. So therefore, there's a more nuanced discussion around changing drinking that doesn't have so much stigma attached to it. Mental health, like I say, being one of those bigger drivers. The second is that there are now products that taste nice. For anyone who remembers Calibre, I could still tell you some pubs that it's in. But, it was always about taste, and that didn't particularly help. Now we've got products that fit in every single drink category that people think taste nice and, most importantly, give a quality of experience. So when you turn up at the pub, it's not half a pint of Coke on a hose, because I'm not 11 and about to go and wait in the car park for my dad. It's a proper drink that means you feel socially included. Don't underestimate the power of feeling included in a social situation. So that's also a really good part. And it does help that big brands like Heineken have done brand extensions. because they've got a lot of money to put those right in front of your face and normalise the idea that an alcohol-free drink is okay. You're not less of a man or less of a social animal if you're not drinking. So a lot of things are happening all together that has created not only a perfect storm, but also the conditions are right for us all to go, well, it's okay, we can still have a beer, it just doesn't have to be alcoholic on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. And I'll save my drinking for the time, the place and the people that I care about the most. And for anyone who's selling premium alcohol, that's also the same sort of message. People are saving their drinking for the thing they like the most. And the other trend that you can see in this space that is not unrelated is the number of dessert shops that are popping up everywhere. Never before did I think I'd be able to turn up in the West End at midnight and eat loads of cake, which I think is fantastic and it should be encouraged.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd just like to support some of the thoughts from the panel here. Like, from a trade perspective, if you think like a company like ours, which distributes lots of the leading premium brands in the UK, 3-4 years ago we had listings in around 400 or 500 outlets, and this year we're up to around 7,000. And when we activated in January, we had all our major fascia groups coming to us saying, what can we do in January? What can we do in January? And we came up with some fantastic promotions and activations within those stores. And the feedback we've had from those is that the consumer in those outlets ordered much more product than they thought they were going to, and they all want to carry it on through the year. So, the feedback we're getting from our operators is that they see the profit opportunity. They don't want to leave cash in people's wallets anymore. And there's a real acceptance that it can be a major part of a night out and an inclusive part of spreading spend per head upwards across the week, which has always been sort of pushed towards the weekend.
Yeah, that's a really good point around that midweek occasion, because it certainly, low and no really fits in with that, because you mentioned some moderation, and I think historically maybe we looked at low and no as being for people who are either trying to give up alcohol totally or the designated driver essentially on a night out, and actually now we find that people are sort of mixing the two together. So you might have an alcohol-free beer to start the night, maybe if it's an early start to a night out or with dinner, and then you sort of move on to alcoholic drinks. So it's more of a kind of mixing the two together. So essentially still able to just go out midweek. But so do you feel that low and no is a kind of key component to that kind of that midweek occasion, sort of driving that occasion?
I think it's more than the midweek. So what's really interesting about the moderator, if we should call them that, or I know Laura likes the mindful drinker, which is a lovely expression. 66% of the time, that moderator will choose which venue to go to. I was at an event last night and a girl came up to me and said her friend chose to have his 40th at a pub that Lucky Saint was serving draft on. So he brought 60 people to that venue. But on average, that moderator in a hospitality venue will bring 2 people, 2 friends, and they'll buy 2 drinks. So suddenly that's a 50 quid round or evening, and that's happening throughout the week. So you get a lot of lunchtime occasions, obviously working week occasions, but a moderator is looking to moderate throughout the week. I think what's really interesting from our perspective is we have 3 formats at Lucky Saint. So we've got bottles in about 5,000 venues across the UK. We're pouring on draft in 600 venues. We've got 66 Michelin-star restaurants. We've got lots of different pack formats. When a venue chooses to take Lucky Saint from a bottle and put it onto draft, the volume increase will, on average, go up over 9 times. As a revenue increase, that's 6 times. So on average, people are selling half a case. So that's about 50 quid a week. Put it on draft and you're over £320 a week. People are looking for draft beer on tap. And what was interesting, that 66% of the time moderators choose which venue to go to, a bit like vegans and vegetarians might choose the venue based on the menu. When it comes to alcohol-free on draft, that moves right up to 90%. So the person that's picking the venue, if they're the moderator and they want alcohol-free on draft, 90% of the time that'll be the moderator picking. And it's not just midweek and it's not just a Wednesday, it's throughout the whole week. So again, providing that brilliant range for the moderator who is choosing where to take that spend, it's really, really important.
And I can add to that. So Vagabond Wines have changed their lineup, so they've got some alcohol-free products, and they say that shows in their group bookings in particular. Because when anyone's booking for a group, they're looking for somewhere that's got the right food and the right drinks for everybody in their group. So that's a really good indicator. So that also says that you should do another thing, and that's to make sure your menu's online and make sure your drink menu's on Google menu. We work really hard to get our full menu on Google so that anyone in Soho and Oxford Circus and Covent Garden can type in Lucky Saint or Everleaf and will come up straight away as the nearest venue that's got that stocked. So don't underestimate the fact that people are searching and they're looking, particularly for alcohol-free by brand name, and they'll be doing that to search for a place to go for everyone in their group. And that's going to only continue to increase.
Yeah, for sure. Like, all of our products really are aimed at the moderator. If you think about Lyre's, which is designed to give you that cocktail experience in a non-alcoholic way, some of our wines are essentially de-alkalized quality wines. And these are the people that we're looking for, that want to go out on a Wednesday night, Thursday night, as well as the weekend, and have the same experience. As you said, as we said earlier, in terms of the way that they were always treated as a second-class citizen previously, that switch has been, immense. And those venues that aren't treating them as, as the chooser, or as on a par with the people that are drinking alcohol, are just leaving cash in people's pocket, because we always say on the menu, you need to put them with those drinks that add to the experience of a visit, add to enjoyment. Don't put them down on the back or in their own place. Put them with the other drinks where you go in and you have fun. And that's where they should be. They should be treated the same as any other product that adds to your experience of visiting a venue, because that's what they do and that's what they're designed to do. And because you can charge more for them, obviously, than you can for water or coffee or a soft drink, because...
And pick that range well. Put as much thought into it as you do your alcoholic range. One thing I'd say is we just did a consultation response to the Scottish Government about why alcohol-free is pretty good for everybody. And so we talked a lot about the moderator. And of course, this wouldn't be a market if it wasn't for the fact that 25 million people are cutting down their drinking. But the thing that we always forget is there's been people who have always felt excluded from our social spaces up until now. People who have never drunk, people who are Muslims. We have now got an offer to invite them back into our spaces, we've got something to say to more diverse audiences, people who might want to come in an afternoon rather than late into the evening. So this isn't just about making sure that everybody feels welcome, that already comes into venues and keeping them there. It's about welcoming a whole group of people who've been excluded throughout the eons of time from most of our social spaces because we're such an alcohol-centric country and we focus on alcohol-full drinks only.
Yeah, and we know obviously why we're here, and we know what we're talking about, and we know that awareness of the category is growing, but I think we still have a kind of issue around conversion and converting people into the category. And you mentioned, Emma, around the uplift you get from switching between bottle onto draft. And I know from research we've done at CAM, 1 in 4 people who want a low and no when they're in a pub or restaurant still order tap water. So there's a huge opportunity for operators and for brands to kind of release that opportunity in terms of converting them into a low and no category. So I guess 2-pronged question: why do we think that there is that kind of mindset of switching or going straight towards ordering tap water, and how do we start to try and sort of convert and engage with those people who are, to sort of get them into the category?
Yeah, I read a stat recently that said 30% of men still feel embarrassed to order an alcohol-free drink. And that's the issue. You're standing at a bar and you're kind of like looking over to see what there is, and then you panic and either just get a glass of water or you just order a pint and you didn't really want one. And I think when you've got an alcohol-free beer on tap, it's just so much easier to go, pint of that one, please. Half the time, people don't even know what they're drinking. It's quite interesting. People will have 3 or 4 pints of Lucky Saint, like, oh, I had no idea it didn't have alcohol in. But there's so many good things, and I know Laura's got some great ideas on this as well. So many great ways to activate in venue, but the main one is staff, educating the staff. If you've got a general manager at that bar, or a section manager in a retail outlet that gets behind the category, the difference is massive. I think the other thing to note is manage your expectation on rate of sale. It's not going to sell as much as house lager, but if you've got 4 or 5 lager taps in your pub, of course, taking one off, people are just going to switch into the other 4. Lagers. Some people have very strong passion for one particular brand, but most people shop across the repertoire. If you put on a tap of Lucky Saint. Obviously, you're going to be feeding that huge audience of people that want to moderate, or as you said, drink one, then drink a full strength, then drink a Lucky Saint. But manage your expectations. That's going to take time to build up rate of sales. So we need people to get behind the category and give it a couple of months, leave it on, let people see it, let people try it. And just constant education. From our perspective, now we've got a critical mass of distribution. So we're in something like 3,000 grocery accounts, 5,000 on-trade accounts. We went quite big in January. So did anyone see our ads on the tube? Or brilliant. All across London in January and in Brighton. So now we've got this critical mass. And I think one thing that we're really trying to do is elevate this category with really gorgeous branding. I don't know if anyone's old enough to remember the amazing beer ads of the 80s, like the galloping horses from Guinness. Do you remember those ads? Or the Stella woman walking along with the red shoes, and they just made your hair stand on end. We want, like, if you're moderating when you don't want to drink, we want you to feel the same excitement when you see that kind of promotion and advertising as you do. It doesn't just have to be about the functional element of the fact that the beer happens to have 0.5% alcohol. It's alcohol-free. We want you to feel part of that community. You should feel as rewarded, and you should see those aspirational, fun, sort of wry wit adverts as well. And that should make you feel part of the community, be proud. We want people to be proud to hold that bottle in their hand, unlike the past where you might have been a bit embarrassed. Be proud to hold that brand in your hand. That's what we're trying to do. So.
Great. And Laura?
I think you point to some really interesting behaviour, which is however discerning an alcohol drinker we think we are, we will absolutely switch brand if there isn't something that we normally drink. We'll switch to something else that's alcoholic, because at the end of the day, you're buying the alcohol, whether we like to pretend that we are or not. Alcohol basically sells itself. So yes, alcohol-free does need a little bit of better treatment, a little bit more thinking about, a little bit more training of staff. But what we do know is that when people get something that tastes great, that's alcohol-free, they become a convert. We're still in a period where we have to show people that things have changed in this space and that taste has come a long way, and they can enjoy this drink in the same way. So do train your staff, do make sure everyone understands it, do make sure that you put it in pride of place, do make sure it's on the menu properly. I've been to quite a few real ale pubs where they've got some great alcohol-free beers, but they've never been on the menu, and I see people sat around drinking Coke. Well, you don't go to a real ale pub for Coke, do you? You go for beer. And if there's good alcohol-free beer, you should be proud of it. So there's still a little way to go on in terms of perception, and it is a different sell, but it's definitely an upsell from water, right? I still find it weird that I could go into a restaurant and people will happily leave me with tap water and not ask me to spend any money on something. And so that's just one of the easiest switches that you could possibly do. Set your staff a target from, tap water to something people pay for. It's probably a bigger margin than from the cheap wine to the slightly more expensive wine. Lots of small tips. I've never been so excited by a swing tag as I did when I turned up into a restaurant and ordered tap water, and it came with a little tag round it saying, "Have you thought about having a Lucky Saint? It's our alcohol-free beer." Oh my God, I was so excited. I'd take pictures, send it to my mum. It was brilliant. But, these small things do make a difference. You can help build this category. Understanding that it's still in its early days and you guys are all at the start of it really makes a difference.
Joe, I guess what's the difference from sort of beer towards more sort of spirits and cocktails?
I would say that, I'm a firm believer that there is an alcohol-free solution for every venue type. At its most basic, it's a beer, right? And it's a beer in the fridge or it's a beer on draft. And, for some venues, that's okay, that's enough. But, you may move into having alcohol-free wine by the glass or a Liar's gin and tonic, and depending on your back bar space and your level of staff engagement and training, and then slightly more involved, you'd have a full menu of non-alcoholic cocktails that mirror standard cocktails, and then at its most advanced you'd have some experimental stuff, some amazing wines by the bottle, a selection of beers, and there's more venues towards that top end than you would think, but I would say give it a try. The key thing about non-alcoholic spirits is they have to be a menu item. They just do not move off back bar. You're never going to sell them because, people, you talk about that reticence about asking, saying do you have any non-alcoholic spirits? People just don't ask that. But if you have it on menu, you can try, have you tried a live gin? Have you tried some other products? Then people do move towards that and will try it. And once they have the same, excellent experience, it's served in a nice glass with ice, with garnish, and they feel part of the group, they feel part of the evening, that they've been elevated in terms of their experience within that venue and the food they're having, then we see throughput really, really strong. We did a promotion with Ivy Group in January where we did a bespoke menu of 6 Lies cocktails. They sold more non-alc cocktails in that month than they did espresso martinis, which is one of their best-selling cocktails, like multiple thousands. They were absolutely delighted with the project that we did. And it shows that, they've doubled their range of non-alcoholic cocktails throughout the whole year on the back of those sales. So, there is a progression. We see great sales in places like All Bar One, lots of chains where, we put 1 or 2 cocktails on, something nicely chosen for the summer, something like a spritz goes down super, super well when it's hot. So, you can do simple things to have a good range. Have a beer, have a spritz, have a simple serve, have a wine, and it really, really helps elevate the category and have people more interested.
Yeah. I saw, just on that, I saw a really good example where it was a cocktail that almost, it said, do you want to add the sort of vodka or remove it, sort of like, so you can have this exactly the same experience just without
So we have a number of venues that say all of our cocktails are available with or without alcohol, and when they're without alcohol they substitute for a appropriate brand such as Liars.
And it's worth knowing that in a cocktail setting people are looking for lower ABV cocktails, and one way you can do that is swap one of the spirits out for an alcohol-free spirit to lower the strength of that. And so there are cocktail bars in particular, because cocktails can pack a punch. And people want to make their evening more sessionable. So again, these are multi-purpose products.
Yeah.
Quick one on menu. We often get asked, should you put the alcohol-free section together? Or should you just put all the drinks as part? And I don't know if you guys got a view on this, but we often say if you've got the space, yes, by all means create an alcohol-free section, but also put your alcohol-free options within the subsection, so within the beer section, within the spirit section, because people aren't always looking for an alcohol-free section. So space permitting, do it in both. We've just opened our own pub in Marylebone, which you're very welcome to. It's on Devonshire Street. First question people ask is it alcohol-free? No, it's not. We don't believe if you're moderating you have to go somewhere special. But we're going to do loads of experiments over the next few months, trying different levels of menu, different numbers of wines, where we put stuff on menu, and we'll be sharing our learnings with everyone as we go. Do you have a view on menu?
I'm with you, which is we're still new in this category, so people are still looking for it separated out. What it shouldn't be is under the word soft drinks. And please don't use the word mocktail, because a mocktail is some fruit juices mixed together, which taste shit. All right, so alcohol-free cocktails, and then, if you can, do mix them so that people can see them in both sections.
Yeah.
I think that's particularly important for wine, because if you don't put wines in the wine section, they won't be chosen, because people sometimes are looking for those kind of products. I think, why don't we try that? Particularly sparkling. So the non-alc sparkling wines have to be with the wine by the glass.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess it's about how the consumer behaves in terms of their path to purchase. It's either they're looking for a cocktail or they're looking for alcohol-free. So it's kind of like, what's the mindset that they're in, and basically able to have the option at both ends of that journey, essentially. Yeah.
You have to remember that when somebody who doesn't want to drink today comes into your establishment, they're already expecting they're going to have a shit time. They're already expecting that the drink they're going to have is a compromised drink. So you just need to be able to put something in their face that surprises and delights them, and they will be loyal forever.
Yeah. I kind of look at it a little bit like kind of the vegan, vegetarian sort of restaurant experience 10 years ago versus now, in a way, in terms of it's very much integrated into part of that. It's not you've got a vegan, vegetarian menu or you've got a separate section. It's very much kind of like, some restaurants would be, even all the dishes might be vegetarian, but without necessarily advertising it or it being part of that restaurant's sort of USP. So it's kind of, I think that's a good way to look at it in terms of the journey maybe that Low and No is on.
Yeah, definitely.
So talking about, I guess, the journey over the last sort of 2 to 3 years, has anything sort of surprised you about the growth of the category? Anything that sort of as brand owners or people working in the category, sort of things that take you by surprise, or brands that maybe you see as doing something extraordinary or out of the norm, other than obviously Lucky Saint?
Yeah, it's really interesting. The last role I had was at a snacking business, and loads of parallels. People want to snack healthily. It was at Gray's. People want to snack healthily, they just couldn't find it. So you just had to put it in their face, as you say. Give it a gondola end in a store, put it on a menu, and they would say, thank you for helping me find that healthier choice. It's exactly the same with alcohol-free. So the supermarkets are getting there. They're starting to put alcohol-free options on gondola end. Restaurants are starting to put it on their menu. But the demand is much, much bigger than you think. I think what's really interesting is about 3% of all beer sales in the UK are alcohol-free. In Germany, it's 8%. In Spain, it's 14%, because they had this huge coalition across retailers, hospitality industry, consumer groups to push alcohol-free. So it's completely socially acceptable for two guys to walk in a bar in Spain, sit down and order 2 pints of alcohol-free. Completely socially acceptable. And that's because the places you go to make communion, it's not just about getting pissed, it's about getting together. I think some brands that we really love Pentire. It's an alcohol-free spirit. Look it up. It's from Cornwall. They're doing wonderful things. They've also got a fantastic ready-to-drink margarita that they've just launched in Oaxaca. I think one of the brands, I think Heineken's doing a great job globally, but I've got to say, everything coming out of Guinness at the moment, it's just making me smile. I don't know if you saw the 0-0 they did on the pubs in Ireland for St. Patrick's Day. They're doing some great stuff. They've got a great brand, great advert at the moment with the head of the Guinness is sort of can't believe it. It's surprised. It's Guinness is alcohol free, and the alcohol free Guinness Zero is excellent. So they're doing again great things for the category, sponsoring the Six Nations. So it's loads and loads and loads of really good stuff going on. But for me, the next big leap is the retailers really taking the time to create more space, because I can't the stat was about a year ago, 80% of people buy or enjoy their first alcohol-free drink via a supermarket. And I was saying, remember your first Aperol Spritz? It wasn't at home, was it? It was in a bar, where it's the other way around with alcohol-free. And I think that's because there's no social stigma. You can put what you want in your basket. You know, you're not going to Instagram it. So a lot of people try stuff, they buy it in supermarkets and try it at home. So we really need the UK retail to get behind the category, and it's coming. It's coming. Because the more space we give it, the more promotion ends we give it. You know, if there's an alcohol-free beer on offer, you should have an alcoholic beer on offer, you should have an alcohol-free on offer, and that's coming, and that will make a massive difference, along with the big brands doing some great stuff.
What I would say is the alcohol-free producers in this space have done it in spite of the government, not because of it. At the minute, the government still ties producers in this country with one arm tied behind its back, because it can't sort out the descriptors. It creates a whole sort of noise and confusion around what alcohol-free is, which is 0.5% and below, in case anybody wants to know. It's just that government haven't quite got around it yet. They haven't quite realised that there's suddenly one of their major health campaigns now has a market fit, and they should lean into that and support the sector a lot more. The reason why Spain has such big sales of alcohol-free beer is because the government actually took an interest in this 20 years ago and made the conditions right for that to happen. So if you ever think politics doesn't expand to this space, it does. I'd also really like to take VAT off alcohol-free in pubs and bars, because I think it will also help the sector grow, and will also help the pubs and bars and restaurants as well. So that's one thing. I'd also say that there's some interesting brands to look at. I think this year will be a really good year for wine. Do have a look at what Naughty are doing. They've worked really hard to not launch a product until they're really happy with the quality. 75% of alcohol-free sales in online retailers, specialist retailers in America, is wine. And I can tell you the wine sales for us in the tasting room are going through the roof. People can't quite get enough of it. So there's a real shift in that quality of wine, which is going to be a good year for that. The other space to look at is the mood-enhancing space, so things like Sentia and Free Spirit. People buy mood-enhancing products like CBD products and so on, a bit like they buy wine. They're buying the promise of some sort of effect. They're not even so interested in trying it like they are some of the alcohol-free. But again, it's an added value product. People feel they're getting something else from it, either being healthier, And then definitely look at other things that are things that you wouldn't expect but come in different styles of packaging. A really good example is Real Sparkling Tea, who are here. They have, you know, one of the most amazing sparkling teas in a cork and cage bottle. If you're still not sure about the alcohol-free wines, you don't have to have an alcohol-free wine. You can have something that's a wine alternative or adjacent to that fills that occasion. It's all about occasion, and so sometimes you might find there's another product that's unrelated to what you know about alcohol that suits your venue perfectly.
But yeah, so things I'm surprised by. I suppose something that I'm very gratified by is the strength of the alcohol-free specialists within the beer sector. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, they didn't take the sector seriously at all, and so that was taken up by people like Lucky Saint and Big Drop and others that came up with these amazing products. And then, as we've seen from all the big macro brewers, they now take the sector very seriously, but the specialists that are doing a great job and offering really exciting brands that make people feel happy and products that taste great are still really holding their own, both in on-trade and in grocery. And so that makes me really happy, because we wouldn't want to see that kind of incubator of innovation be ended. I suppose the other thing that's surprising me is just in a similar way to what Laura said, the explosion in the quality of alcohol-free wines. If you've been tried one 5 years ago and it was some kind of Franken wine that used grape must with water, with some added acid, with some flavourings, they're not like that at all anymore. The improvement in the technology to remove the alcohol while keeping the aromas and the flavours in wine has been substantial. And the best ones like Oddbird and Naughty that Laura measured are excellent and really, really are well worth seeking out and trying.
You can come and try them all actually in the tasting room. They're always open to sample, and it is the thing that people want to try the most is the wines.
Yeah, and even the reds are fantastic. You need to have a slight mindset change and think, this isn't something that's going to taste exactly like a red wine because it hasn't got the alcohol in, but it's something that's delicious, that pairs really well with food and can give me a great experience with my dinner and talking to friends.
At the end of the day, right, these are just drinks, nice drinks. They fit a need that soft drinks don't.
Yeah.
And so interestingly, our research for the Scottish consultation showed that people are also using alcohol-free drinks as a way to switch away from sugar. So, next to water, the healthiest thing you can drink in the pub is an alcohol-free beer. 3 ingredients, 66 calories, full of vitamin B12. I mean, what more do you need, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. It brings me on to my next question around, we've obviously seen like a backlash against the kind of other alternatives, so sort of dairy alternatives, meat-free alternatives, in terms of people questioning their credentials from a kind of environmental impact and health impact as well. I guess that in itself, but also what other sort of challenges, or do you think that is a challenge, or what kind of other challenges do you see potentially impacting the sector over the next sort of 18 months, 12 to 2 years?
I mean, I can speak for Lucky Saint. It's maybe 4 natural ingredients. The 4 natural ingredients you would have found in the original Pilsner recipe of 1842. We conform to the German purity laws, which are the Reinheitsgebot, so that you're only allowed 4 natural ingredients. I really encourage you, when you're at the supermarket, turn the bottle over and have a look at what's in it. Often alcohol-free beer will use like thickening agents like maltodextrin, which is a compound, or it might use lactose, which is milk. We don't do that. We spend 6 weeks to brew our beer. It's lagered, which means to store for 4 weeks. It's brewed to 5%, and then we take the alcohol out. We don't filter it. So we've done everything we can to give you the best quality beer. Probably the reason we're in 66 Michelin-star restaurants. So I think, do your research, have a look. For us, we've put our heart and soul into creating the best quality beer that you can have, so you shouldn't have to compromise. It's the reason why there's no sugar in the beer, and it's such low calorie. But not everyone chooses to make that beer that way, but that's what we do.
And Laura, what kind of challenges do you see?
Yeah, what I'm seeing is more and more brands in this space going for B Corp status, which is not just about the environment, but how you treat people and how you do business in an ethical way. For me, that seems perfectly natural, because what you're doing is you're bringing onto the market a product which does help people reduce their alcohol consumption, which in terms of global health is really, really important. Doesn't surprise me that new founders want to make sure that they've got that that categorisation. We have that too. Happy B Corp month, everybody, because I know Lucky Saint have got B Corp status as well. And so what you're seeing is not just brands that are going, here's some really interesting liquid to taste, but we're doing it in as ethical and as good a way as possible for people and planet. And that's something the alcohol-only brands or the brands that do alcohol could never actually do properly. So there we are.
Yeah, I think, adding to that, we can talk about alcohol-free in a way that you can't talk about alcohol, because alcohol is heavily legislated in terms of the way they communicate, in their naming of products, in the way that they can talk about health benefits, and that doesn't get in the way of alcohol-free products, because we're essentially we're legislated as a soft drink under those laws. So we can talk about having fun, we can talk about talking to your friends, we can talk about making you a better person, about more exciting, about having a better night out. None of that you can do with alcohol. So there are a lot of advantages to the way that we can talk about these products in a real branded way, and make them something that can be a central part of the way people think about their nights out. So that is a benefit, and we're taking alcohol out of products, and we're hopefully helping people moderate, so they can drink alcohol when they want to, but they can still have fun not drinking alcohol when they don't. So
it's really important that when we use the term mindful drinking, which we did when we launched our pub guide in 2017, we did that because I wanted to call it a pub guide for healthier drinkers. But because we talk about low as well as no alcohol, I couldn't use the word healthy. Mindful is, however, a free-for-all. So that's why we use the term mindful drinking. And in the club soda tasting room, we also have low alcohol products, which for some people feels like the weirdest thing to do. But for us, mindful drinking is thinking about what you drink when you are drinking, just as much about what you drink when you're not. And so being able to show people that you can, if you are moderating, that you can also reduce your ABV when you're out. And there are many ways to do that, and products begin to do that. It's just as important. At the end of the day, it's not my job to tell you what to do, but to give you the tools and the information and resources so that you can make the right decisions for you. And I think that's also the way that the brands occupy this space. They're not telling you to not drink anything or to only have Lucky Saint in a Lucky Saint pub. They're trying to create choice, and choice is what makes everybody happy.
Cool. So last question, and we'll hopefully have time for a couple of questions from the audience. Time to stick your neck out. What's your number one prediction for the low and no category in the next maybe 3 to 5 years? Who wants to start?
Shall I? Well, I think you're definitely going to see wine and wine alternatives shooting up people's priority. Actually, wine loses out when people go alcohol-free, and people who've never drank beer before often switch to beer. I'm a really good example of that. I never drank beer when I was drinking alcohol. I think they'll be able to reclaim some of those customers in the wine space. So I think this year's that beginning point of that. Mood enhancing will also be a really big category. One of our biggest grossing beers, alongside Lucky Saint in the store, is Function, which uses adaptogenic mushrooms and functional mushrooms. It now begins to sell itself in a way that it didn't last year when we gave it, where Josh used to love telling people about Function beer. So again, that's a really interesting category. And I think over the next 5 years, we will see the emergence of low as a category that people begin to understand. We're quite binary at the moment in our choices. We're either drinking or we're not drinking. But I think as people get used to the idea that you can pick and choose, they'll start looking at strength of drinks, talking about lower strength cocktails. Have I just stolen everything from you two? Or no?
Fine.
Good.
Jack,
I'll make two things. So in the short term, I would say that I think very much that the mood enhancing and functional is going to be a key part of the way people talk about this category in the next few years. We've seen an explosion of interest in GABA drinks, which are drinks that influence your GABA receptors to give you that feeling of well-being. So we have one, Sentia, that got a lot of press over January, and we saw sales up like tenfold within a month to be one of our best-selling products within January. But I think in the longer term, I'm hopeful that we'll get to a stage where when someone goes and asks for something at a bar or at a venue, so they're going into a party and they say, would you like some wine, please? And they'll say with or without. It'll become like having a cup of tea. Are you going to have that with milk or not?
Yeah.
So are you going to have your wine
never
without
have tea with milk. It's wrong.
I love that.
So there you go.
Short term, I think from a consumer behaviour perspective, at the moment I know quite a lot of people will choose the days of the week that they're not going to drink. Short term, people will start choosing the days of the week that they're going to drink. I'm going to drink on Saturday because it's a really important occasion, rather than, I've got lots of friends that are like, if I can do 2 days in a row, I'm having a good week. And then by 5 years, I think we would love to see every single pub in the country has got a tap of alcohol-free, whether that's Lucky Saint or another brand. That would be an amazing thing.
Brilliant. Any questions from the audience?
Hiya, thank you. Dave Moss, Barclays. I suppose I'm interested.
Can you just lift your microphone up a bit there?
Sorry, is that better?
Perfect.
Cool, perfect. So yeah, Dave Moss, Barclays. I'm interested to see the difference or benefits between having a non-alcoholic brand compared to having an alcoholic brand that offers non-alcoholic products.
So you're talking about whether having a brand extension of an alcoholic brand is better or worse?
Yeah, so understanding the difference, if there is a benefit for being Lucky Saint and being a non-alcoholic brand compared to Guinness offering a 0.0.
Do you want to say?
Why are you alcohol-free only, right? Why don't you start having a low and others? Do you think you'll stay alcohol-free, right?
We're a dedicated alcohol-free brand. We will never have alcohol. From a range perspective, there's lots of data to say the optimum range, and this came from someone I met at Asahi recently, is to have 3. So you might have a Heineken Zero, you might have a Stout, and you might have a Lucky Saint as your trade-up beer. So it's good to have a different range of price points, a zero and we're obviously at 0.5%, slightly higher quality. So I think it's good to have a range. We will never sell alcoholic products, and we've definitely seen the benefit from being a dedicated alcohol-free brand from consumers' perspective and from customers and retailers we work with. But I wouldn't like to say that one's better or the other. I think it's good to have a range.
So the research, if you go to jointclubsoda.com/research, you would see the latest piece of research we did talks about brand extensions. What we know at the moment is brand extensions give the consumers confidence to try alcohol-free when they may not have already done, because it's a brand they recognise, it's a taste profile they recognise. It's definitely helping the sector. The fact that large brands tend to have bigger budgets and can do things like sponsor the World Cup with their 0.0 brand really puts alcohol-free as a whole category in front of people's face. And there will always be those people, like Guinness Zero, it's probably the only brand extension that people open our door and go, do you have any Guinness Zero in? Because that is clearly a very particular brand for people. So there are benefits to doing that. And there are benefits to the sector to doing that. There will always be issues around legislation, and I think alcohol-free should be careful not to get caught up in that. So, for example, there is a suggestion that there's alibi marketing, that really Heineken is trying to get you onto their alcoholic product. It actually doesn't work like that, because we drink alcohol for a reason, and it's because it makes us feel a particular way. If we're drinking an alcohol-free product, it doesn't make us feel that way. It actually doesn't work in the way that people think they do, and there's no evidence that suggests that does. But obviously, you don't want alcohol advertising in a place, alcohol-branded advertising in a place where you wouldn't normally have had it. So it's important that alcohol-free doesn't get caught up with any unintended consequences of legislation. But I still think it's a great space, particularly for distillers and others, to look at doing an alcohol-free product. There's clearly a lot of brand recognition. You've got a good customer base. They will be looking to recreate the flavours that they get used to from you, and have that in an alcohol-free product. So I would encourage brands to push into that. It's also worth saying that there are nearly every single brewery does a low ABV beer. There's 250 low ABV beers in this country already. So, low is also a space where alcoholic brands can look at good quality, lower ABV products using the techniques that have been developed in the alcohol-free space.
Yeah, there's definitely a space for brand extensions from alcoholic products, but they also they sort of pigeonhole you into a certain space. Like, Diageo can do only a certain number of SKUs with Gordon's and some other brands, whereas there's more freedom when you're an alcohol-free specialist. Like, we have a product called Liars that has 15 different SKUs in terms of spirits, which enables any bar to offer any cocktail as an alcohol-free product. Yeah, there's no alcohol brand that could do that, and also, when you have an alcohol brand with an extension, it's always an also ran within their portfolio because the sales will be lower, and so it doesn't have the same focus that a non-alcoholic specialist brand can give to those products in terms of flavour, in terms of marketing, and in terms of the way they communicate with the consumer, because they can be much more bold and brave about how they tell and about occasion and about convincing people to have non-alcoholic products at certain times, which brands that have an alcoholic sibling wouldn't be able to do because they're trying to protect their core market as well.
I think it's worth saying they have the potential to break the market as well. So Diageo are very naughty at the minute in forcing venues to take their alcohol-free SKUs as part of any deal around their alcohol SKUs. There's nothing that makes a brand sell less than a bartender who's been forced to have a product on the bar. So I'd encourage them not to do it, and I've suggested that to them as well. So it's it's still a delicate ecosystem at the minute, and it needs everyone to play nice.
Brilliant. And on that note, I think our time is up. I'd just like to thank our panelists, so Jack, Laura, and Emma. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening.